Hello dear friends, Patrick here again. This is video number 2 in the video series covering the book by Richard Dawkins, which he calls the greatest show on earth. And I'm going to be covering in this video chapter 1 called Only a Theory. This chapter, he comes out with guns blazing, with vicious lies, with all the power and energy that has been provided to him by Satan himself, because he has given himself over to the forces of evil. And the first thing he does is he equates disbelief in evolution with Holocaust denial. And he does that immediately, and he repeats that on page 8. The evidence for evolution is at least as strong as the evidence for the Holocaust, he says, even allowing for eyewitnesses to the Holocaust. So he says that there's eyewitnesses to evolution. And he later on in the book, he uses examples of people that did these experiments with bacteria over hundreds and hundreds of generations and thousands of generations, replicating the process of evolution in a type of lab setting. So he says this proven, you cannot repudiate it. He says here on page 9, evolution is a fact, and this book will demonstrate it. No reputable scientist disputes it, and no unbiased reader will close the book doubting it. This is his purpose. He's laying out the facts. He's gaslighting any scientist that would dispute it, and no unbiased reader will close the book doubting it. I'm a biased reader. Obviously, I am biased because of the experiences of my life and my exposure to truth. And so, as I mentioned in the first video, I don't have a problem with evolution because God said he made man out of the dust of the earth. That out of dust you came, out of dust you shall return. But Dawkins' purpose is to dictate the usage of words. Don't forget, Dawkins is a master of words. He's a wordsmith. Words are his weapons. There's no doubt about that. And he wants to get rid of the phrase only a theory. He doesn't want anybody to be allowed to say that anymore. He wants to say evolution is a fact. He says here on page 10, evolution is a fact in the same sense as it is a fact that Paris is in the northern hemisphere. So he continues, repeats his lie over and over again. Evolution is a fact. Evolution is a fact. His version of what evolution is a fact. And his version of evolution is evolution without any mention of God, without any suggestion of a divine creator, without any suggestion of an unseen intelligence that directs and maintains life. His definition of evolution is absolutely no unseen elements to it. It is only the physical. It is unfeeling. It is inert. It has no thinking. It is simply exists and perpetuates the genes of life. That is his definition. And he says that is a fact. And anybody that would speak against that, he will gaslight and belittle. He will insult them, and he will compare them to Holocaust deniers, as he does in this first chapter. So his arguments are vicious. On page 16, he uses the term once a fortnight in reference to some obscure piece of trivia to remind us that he is a British snob, right? That he wants to let you know his background. He has a silver spoon so far up his ass from his background and upbringing that, he smiles silver when he opens his mouth, right? And he uses the term fortnight. He says on the same page, our common ancestry with porcupines and pomegranates, to exaggerate the evolution of everything being related to everything else, right? Evolution and the heliocentric theory weren't always among them, but they are now. He assumes on page 17 that evolution is as proven as the heliocentric theories. He says on page 17, nowadays it is no longer possible to dispute the fact of evolution itself. So his definition of evolution, right? Evolution is a broad term, but he says you can't dispute evolution because it's proven. And he can prove certain ways that evolution is interpreted, and so he says, oh, it's a fact. So he extrapolates the term evolution to include his version of evolution. There's a biblical version of evolution. There's God's version of evolution. There's the way that God allows creatures to adapt. There's God's divine maintenance of life, saying that the earth gives fruit of itself, right? That nature gives fruit of itself, that he cares about the sparrow, that he cares about suffering, but none of that is within the definition of Dawkins' version of evolution. Dawkins is a liar via assumption. So again, he continues to gaslight and belittle any opposing thoughts. He says that on page 18, there's no longer a doubt in any serious mind. So if you have a doubt about evolution, you don't have a serious mind. It says all reputable biologists go on to agree that natural selection is one of its most important driving forces. See, he says, if you're a biologist and you don't believe in natural selection, or if you doubt it in any way, you're not a reputable biologist. You see what he does? So those are the two pillars of his arguments, are evolution and natural selection. And he uses them constantly in this book. Evolution is simply God's method for creatively maintaining and expanding life. There's nothing magical about evolution. Did you hear what I just said? I wrote that as a note at the end of chapter 1. I said evolution is simply God's method for creatively maintaining and expanding life. That's all it is. There's nothing hocus pocus about evolution, and to introduce the term to automatically say, oh, God's not involved. God says that without the spirit, the body is dead. He says if he didn't infuse the creation with his spirit, there would be no life. There would be no life on earth. There would be no animation. There would be no animated life forms if it were not for the maintenance and the breath of God, or the Spirit of God, if you want to call it that. But that is totally sacrilege to Dawkins, right? Dawkins' definition of evolution is the transformation of one life form into another over time without anything to do with God. Without anything to do with God. Everything coming from a single cell, and everything evolving from a single life form and going out expanding into different trees of life forms. And that's his version of evolution. And if you don't accept his version of evolution, then you are not reputable. Then you are not serious, right? Then you are biased. And he continues that pounding, that continual. And then what he does as he moves on, he starts to throw in scriptures to try and poke at the beliefs of anybody that may be Christian, that may consider that God is a sustainer of life, that God has a divine intelligence, that God is beyond what we see, taste, touch, and can measure, as scientists love to do, right? Dawkins hates that. It's like kryptonite to Dawkins. Dawkins is like, I can't help but think again about that title by Hal Lindsey, Satan is alive and well on planet Earth. And Dawkins is the embodiment of all the characteristics of Satan. He uses words to his advantage to repeat the lie. Yea, hath God said. Is this really what God did? That God created life? That God maintains the earth? No, it's not God. It's evolution. It's natural selection. There is no God. He keeps repeating that over and over and over again. He tries to pound it into the reader. There's no God. If you think there's a God, then you're biased, or you're not serious, or you're not reputable. You can't think like that. You have to think the way that Dawkins thinks, right? That atheism is the only way. And look at the results of atheism in our world today. And who has done more to promote atheism than any other individual in our lifetime? Richard Dawkins. So I'm going to wind that down. I've reached the 10-minute mark for chapter 1. And chapter 1 is really, he sets the stage for his worldview, for the way his mind works, the way he perpetuates the great lie that there is nothing to the unseen realm, the great lie that there is no God. And he spends more and more time to try and drive that point home. In the next video, we're going to do chapter 2. It's called Dogs, Cows, and Cabbages. So that's it for chapter 1. And this is video number 2 in the 15 video series dealing with this particular book review. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. I love you very much. I hope you're able to spend time with people you love. And remember that God cares and loves you, that God cares and sustains life on this planet. We'll talk to you again real soon. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.